Hello and welcome to another episode of the Release Day Series podcast. Today I am joined by the Edmonton, Alberta-based surf punk band Bad Buddy. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
How did this happen how did this band come together? Where did you guys discover each other and discover that surf punk was going to be your flavor?
Well, we kind of known each other for a while just throughout the Edmonton music scene. Emily's a live sound engineer and Jeff's played drums in like tons of bands, and I usually sing backups in more folk projects. But like 2016, we just decided we wanted to have a good time and see what we could kind of get away with musically.
So you guys said, so Andy, you mentioned this started in 2016. You guys coming together to put this together? Yeah. And so then fast forward 4 years and your debut, album, self-titled, comes out. I personally, I love hearing that because it wasn't like we're a band 1 year in, let's go record an album and get going. So, unless that's what you did, is that what happened?
Well, yeah, because we had a drummer, we recorded an album and then got Jeff as a drummer. And so we decided to re-record the album.
2018 was the actual recording.
Yeah, actual recording. And I was still kind of getting it together on the guitar, I feel like, in some ways. So it was kind of like, oh, I play these songs so much better than I did the first time we recorded them. So it was, it kind of worked out okay. But yeah, it did take us 4 years to put out an album. People are always like, when are you going to do it? And we kept announcing, we're like, 2017, okay, 2018.
Coming at you.
Never mind. We're going to wait until there's a pandemic.
Yeah. There was like, we actually recorded a bunch of songs like 3 times. And I have all the old recordings and man, oh man, it is funny to listen to the old ones.
So did you have some time? So obviously you guys benefited from having that opportunity early on so that you could go back and really realize what needed to be done. Did you guys kind of take a listen and say, no, we got to either one, get better or approach the production process differently?
It was not even about getting better. Like we would have probably been happy to just crank it out. That was the plan. It was tricky because like up until pandemic, I was in 5 bands. When Jeff joined Bad Buddy, he was in 13 bands. Like something crazy. Andy was in probably 4.
Yeah, I think it was 4 or 5
projects.
And some were more full-time than others.
So it wasn't just like all of our time was focused on this. It was plus all of our full-time jobs. So I was like touring also as a live sound engineer. So I'd be gone for a lot of the year, like sometimes up to 6 months a year. So we'd do stuff, we'd play some shows, and then it'd be like, you can't be on the road and mixing as well, which was like originally going to be my responsibility. I was like, yeah, I'll totally do this. But we just like, there was just no time. Like we were busy doing stuff. And then, we lost our first drummer and had to get a new drummer. And then that new drummer was on tour. And then we had to get Jeff as a sub. And then when Jeff joined the band, it was really like, oh, this is the sound. Like this, it really locked everything together. So it was just like, okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. It was not for lack of wanting to do it. It was like, and not for, like we were proud of the stuff that we had recorded. It just was just the natural progression of how things worked out.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened with once we recorded in 2018, we started to travel a lot more playing the music and still just work and stuff. It became obvious that we had to outsource this mixing because, I couldn't like be booking tour and be on tour and also be at home mixing. So we found a really amazing mix engineer who ended up getting it done for us. And like, it was just nailed it. We're so happy with the way that everything's turned out.
Yeah. You should. Yeah, you definitely. It's awesome to like hear that music and coming from Edmonton, that style, right? And reading up on some of your past work, Emily, I think it was you were mentioning that you used to try and play folk music, but that really wasn't you. And then you guys were able to get together and come up with something that I imagine is really, how you wanted to express yourself and express, yourself through music. It just obviously being here in Toronto, the center of the universe is what we call it. You don't get to hear a lot of that. And you guys are pretty well known, I think, around Edmonton. You've had some, people really, especially talking about your live show, which after listening to the album and seeing your music videos, can only imagine is just so
balls
much
to the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's got to just be so much fun. And
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And because it is. So your album is 35 minutes, it's 13 songs. And what did I put here? It's a ripping good time. It's full of great riffs. And you really want to dance and let loose to it, which you can. And then you stop and you listen to the lyrics and you're like, should I be dancing to this? Which
Yes.
I found myself right.
As long as you're listening to the lyrics, yes.
Yeah.
The music is to have supposed to make you want to have a good time,
And it totally does. But I'd love to get into a little bit of the messaging behind it, and maybe we'll start with you, Emily, as to where a lot of the narrative for these songs has come from, and why you felt it important to speak about what a lot of the messages are throughout the songs.
Yeah, it feels like I threw up all these songs in a year. Like it just came pouring out of me. I mean, it started with the first two songs I brought to the band, Hunters and Don't Fuck Around. And that was, we had our first rehearsal, and I'd never started a band from scratch. I didn't know what it was about. So I was like, oh, everyone's probably going to be so prepared. I was like, I should write a couple songs for the first rehearsal. And I showed up and everyone was like, okay, what do we do? And I was like, I don't know, I wrote some songs. And everyone was kind of like, what? Okay. I think Hunters is a good example of just the sound that I wanted to do. I wanted to do talk singing. I didn't want to be pretty all the time. And Don't Fuck Around was just largely how I felt every time somebody was talking to me at work and mansplaining their shit to me. And Bad Buddy became more and more of a comfortable space where I was able to just speak what was in my heart. And I don't know, it's just life experience, There's some pretty serious moments. I was really nervous about the album coming out because I was like, people are going to be able to hear these lyrics where it's I talk about sexual assault, just feeling unsafe, mental health, lots of stuff. A lot of these songs were written at a very, very dark, depressed time.
Walking around with keys in your hand, because you should not be walking around with keys in your hand. You can dance around to it, and then you stop and you listen. It's heavy. I can't relate to any of it. So I think when I was able to actually hear that, it was like, man, I can't believe that, and it's not like it's new, it's been happening forever, but I think you've done a great job in expressing it. It's definitely something that you couldn't have come easy, but now that you've been able to put it into words and put it into music, has that made you feel any different? Feel better about being able to talk about it in any way? Sad because this still is happening, women are still going through these experiences?
I think yes to all of that.
Yeah.
It's been, I think that a side effect of playing in Bad Buddy, which we can all agree upon, is I don't think we expected the sort of empowered relatability reaction from the audience. We've had people coming up to us after shows crying and thanking us, having relatable experiences, and the outfits that we wear too, the things that we're singing about and the way that we dress. It's a pretty stark juxtaposition, because I think that it shows that we're not afraid, even though we've had some super negative, awful life experiences, but we're not afraid to put ourselves out there. And I don't know, I've always said, even though I have been in situations where I have been a victim, that is not some part of my identity. I'm not carrying that around with me. I don't want to be scared all the time. I mean, that's a part in Keys in Hand. It's I'm not afraid most of the time, but every now and then, you got to get your keys out and get your guard up. And I think it's just been, it's been really rewarding and disheartening in a lot of ways to see how many people are yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's not my private experience. It's a shared experience with a lot of the women and femme people of the world.
and it speaks to you guys being able to sing and be true to about, you know, to yourselves, to your sound. I mean, I think that is just a huge thing that a lot of artists, you know, are starting to realize, is that if you're going to, you know, if you want to have people coming out to shows or relating to your music, they got to be able to relate to it. And you know, like, it's unfortunate that they relate to this, but I mean, at the same time, you're giving them this opportunity to exactly not feel alone, and potentially address those mental health problems that they could be suffering, knowing that, you know, you guys have an outlet for them, and, you know, don't have shows now, but, you know, will be a great opportunity, you know, to have a safe space for everybody to congregate to as well when those come back up. Andy, when it comes to the guitars and being able to like put the music together, I'm sure it's a group effort, but do you take anything in what Emily's written and try and translate, you know, sonically into, you know, with the guitar riffs that you come up with to lend to the lyrics that she's singing about?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a more recent thing where I'm consciously doing that. I like to think I'm starting to become more of like, I'm like, let's produce the music. Like, mostly recently on like our, well, actually So Sweet, like I play kind of a little sparkly like guitar part, and I did kind of want it to sound like candy-ish, and kind of like sweet and just like, yay. And then you hear the song and you're like, oh, this is about kind of like a fake two-faced person. And like on our recent song, it's not out yet, it will be our next single, but it's called Mind Control. And for the guitar part on that, I did want it to kind of sound like the internal thought process a person has, like your little mind is going crazy. It's kind of like when you're falling asleep at night and you're like, I would really like to go to sleep now, but your brain is like, no, we're going to think about everything you've ever done and said in your life instead, and you're going to agonize over these things. And so like now I feel like I'm starting to get that more, but I never ever thought I would ever play this kind of music or be a guitar player even in this like context.
Right.
So it's exciting, it's cool, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I feel like the better I get a guitar, the easier it is for me to write parts that are in my head, because I don't read music at all. I play by ear, and I actually write parts by singing. Emily taught me this. I sing voice memos into my phone, and then I go to the guitar and I'm like, okay, now what am I playing? And
Cool.
like, I'll literally Google, I'll be like, what chord is this? And I'll Google like 7th fret, this shape. Like, me and Emily, if people have heard us playing, like learning guitar parts together, we're basically like 6th fret A shape, and then 4th fret claw, and then little claw. Like, we are like Phoebe on Friends. We're like, we don't know what we're doing, what these are called.
Yeah.
We're just using our ears and then
we definitely play it by ear.
Yeah,
I think something that's great about Annie's guitar playing is she really makes space. She creates the sonic space. We always are like, Annie brings the surf with her tone, and she highlights the vocals in a really nice way, and then digs in.
Thanks, Scott. Oh, thank you.
She's got to. It's fantastic.
Hearing this for the first time on the Release Day Series podcast.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're very careful not to compliment each other lest it goes to any of our heads.
We just bring each other down, super down.
I don't know if you can tell, we have huge egos.
Massive.
And we can't risk them getting out of control.
I've been shaking in my shoes this entire time. So,
That's what we like to hear.
Jeff, how did you said you were a fan of the band for a long time before you even joined into it, knowing sort of what the music was about, how did you feel about joining into something like into a project like this?
Humbled.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of like being handed like a baby that's not yours, and
that sounds terrifying.
This person's like, I have an emergency, I need you to take care of my fragile baby.
Whoa.
And you care about me, and I know you care about this baby, but this is like, you've never been a parent, you have no experience child rearing. And I was like, okay, I love this, I definitely want to do my best to serve this, and I'm scared shitless about in a really good way, like in a really cool way. I really was honored. I was a huge fan. I thought this band was really special, and I had also been playing a lot of music that, like some music that I was felt really privileged to play. I mean, I felt really privileged to play with everybody I played with. Some of the stuff that I played spoke to me more than others, but like this music, musically, like aside from the lyrical content, which like you, it's like I don't have that experience, you know, like I can't relate to that. I can really admire the courage it takes to like reflect that so honestly in music. But honestly, it was like the music itself was so powerful and spoke to me, and I was just like in awe, and I was like, oh, this is something that I would love to like pour my soul into musically, you know. Yeah, it was humbling. I was like, okay, I really want to do this, and I really want to make sure I do it the best that I can.
Let me take care of your sweet infant
Sweet
child.
baby.
I don't know. That's like just the best thing I could come up with on the spot, you know, because it was like.
Well, I get it. Like
there's
a long time that I thought about the album. I was like, I described it as a glass orb. Remember, I was like, it feels like we're holding this thing, and I just don't want to drop it. I just don't want to drop this orb and have it smashed to pieces. I just want to put it on a little stand, but I can't do that yet.
Now, yeah, absolutely. So, and the first song that came out you guys released was Hunters. That was the very first single. That was when I was first introduced to you guys back in early 2020. And you had a really cool music video to go along with that. And you've got a really great music video that just came out in Fine Hunniez. How do you guys, you know, when it came to thinking about putting in these kinds of music videos together, is this a fun process? Was this a fun process for you guys? Or was this like, we've never made a music video before, how are we going to do this?
Yes.
Well,
yeah. Maybe I should stop asking so many open-ended questions.
No,
Yeah.
You're just asking the right questions. It's like, that's all applicable.
Hunters, we just kind of were along for the ride on that one because our friend Michael, he was like, I have this idea. I'd really like to try it out if you guys are into it. And so we showed up, and he took the lead, and it was like, wow, I'm just drinking wine in the back, and you want to put more jewelry on me? Okay, do it.
Should we let everybody in on the secret as to what that video was actually a part of?
Oh, yeah.
So Michael McDonald actually decided to film like a short doc about Bad Buddy. And so the Hunters video actually wasn't intended to be a music video. It was the intro to this short doc. And then we were just like, okay, we have this video and we need a video to help push our now old album release.
Old, in terms of the music industry, which is like
6 months old.
Right.
No, 1 month old. 1 month
really?
old is considered old.
Yeah, that's right. So it was like a month after our release, and we were trying to do all this PR for our album to get out there. And all we were hearing was like, people don't want to touch it, but if you have a video,
it can boost
your. So we were like, hey, let's use this intro for this short doc as a music video and help push our album. So we were really lucky to have that. And that was really awesome. But really, Fine Hunniez video is like the first video that we ever like actually did that was like our vision for what a music video should be like.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because it's gotta be like 2 or 3 years ago. Emily was like, I have an idea for a Fine Hunniez video. She's like, and I kind of storyboarded it, but she just had these like stick people drawings that she had done.
Yeah.
But if you go on, I think our Instagram, there's side-by-side photos of like the stills from the video and then Emily's storyboard. And it's like perfectly, the stick people are doing exactly what we do in the video. And it's really funny. It was like a 15-hour day. Well, the day before we probably ran around for, 5 to 7 hours doing stuff,
painting, furniture,
painting, gathering supplies, glitter, whatever. And then the day was like a 15-hour day. And we had our friend Samuel Brooks as our videographer for it. And a couple other pals helped out as extras and like best boy. And it was the most fun. Like at the end of that 15-hour day, I was like, if I could do this every day, I would. And if it was 15 hours every day, I wouldn't care. It was like the most fun ever.
Like we were all over the city driving around. When you look at the video and it's like that was shot one day, every single shot. We set up a studio in the basement for all the colored light stuff. We set up the flaming living room in Sam's garage, and then just drove around the city, like catching the daylight in the right ways. The second we stopped filming outside, it poured rain. I cannot recommend a storyboard enough to anybody who's going to make a music video, because knowing what you want to shoot is the only way we could have gotten it done. Was like, we had a clear vision. We're going to execute this vision. This is it. Everybody's on the same page. Okay, let's go.
Huge shout out to Listen Records also in Edmonton, who in like early stages of this pandemic, when things were even more, I don't know, dare I say, uncertain, they weren't even open to the public officially, and we were strapped. Our location for in-store like shots like fell through, and we happened to be in the neighborhood. Emily gave them a call, and they were like, okay, like a little bit reluctant to have a bunch of strangers come in and shoot when we're not even open to the public. But yeah, let's do it. And so we are eternally grateful for them for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And by the way, I was going through your social media. That's under Facebook. That's where I saw the side by side of the storyboard and the music video. I also saw that I think at the beginning of March, you circled that the video had 10,000 views. It's now at 90,000.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty amazing. Did you guys do a lot of marketing, put a lot of marketing behind it? Was this a lot of help from local music blogs? How do you think it got to 90K aside from being a killer music video? Where you guys are sitting in a burning room for the final shot, which I'm still to this day like, how'd you do that? So sorry. So yeah.
the PR. So Bad Buddy doesn't really have a team. We just started working with some people. It's just been us. All the album release stuff was us sending out a million emails and getting very few responses. I mean, I wrote you, like, this is how we've done things. We did work with one PR person for the Hunters video release. And I think that his focus was more so on radio. So we got a lot more like Spotify plays and stuff like that. But we wanted to see the views, and the views are great for grants and stuff like that. It feels really good to know that people are watching it, but how do you get people to click on your video that are not your close family and friends? So we got a company called Tinderbox that reached out to us, and they do sync placements, PR, and radio tracking. And so their radio tracker had seen our name come up on all these charts, and they were like, what's this band about? And so they listened to it, really liked the music. They wrote us, and this was kind of the beginning. This is the beginning step of the means to an end of eventually reaching our sync placement goal in later this year. But they said, we just want to work with you. What do you got coming out? We said, we've got this Fine Hunniez music video, and they hooked us up with a YouTube ad campaign. So we made a trailer. We made a couple trailers, and we watched them, and we decided which one's going to be the most catchy. And the trailer's on YouTube too, on our YouTube page. But that's the one that we set that trailer as an ad that would play before major label artists. So like if you're going to go see a Miley Cyrus video, our ad would pop up first. And then it's about people clicking through and watching long enough to get that view. So these are all verified, Google verified reviews. They're not bots, which is fantastic. So yeah, we put a little bit of money into it, and we'd always have like 4 or 5 ads running on 4 or 5 different artists at a time. And then the click through, and our average is like people watched 60% of it on average, but like I think 20% of people watched the whole thing, which sounds like weak, but it's not. It's like somebody just clicked on an ad. That's really strong numbers. Yeah. So it feels good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and you know, like, that's the thing that I kind of think about too. Like that's all, like that's great, because I mean, if you think whatever 20% of 90,000, I'm not even going to start to do the math. It's not what I do. But even when you just think about that number, like I always try to equate even having 20, 25, 30 views on a video. It's like, imagine if like you had 30 people at a show, and I think maybe at your level, 30 people might not be a whole lot, but for, I think a lot of artists, you know, if you can think about 30 people watching your video or listening to your song, could you even have 30 people out to a show, you know? And if not, like that kind of that's pretty good, you know, for that people, like, you know, who, you don't know who these 30 people could be. And, you know, even if you made one fan out of that 30, I mean, that can spiral, you know, and to a
Totally.
whole other slew of fans from them.
Totally.
So that's my point on that.
Oh, it's a good point. Honestly,
Solid
like
point.
we've played some shows to like lots and lots of people. We've played some shows to hardly anybody. And we've played shows to 15 people where everybody bought merch, and that ended up being like one of the best shows for us on a tour.
Regina.
Yeah, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Regina.
That was so
an
tight.
awesome show.
It was one of the funnest shows that I've ever played in my
life.
It
was.
I mean, people.
15
There's like
people
12 people there. It was great.
Like 15 people who are all totally stoked on what's going on is way better than hundreds of people where you can't really read the vibe because it's all just sort of like, intermixing out there.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate you jumping in and saving me on that, because that's perfect, man. I think that's 100% right. That's why I talk about the 1,000 or whatever true fans. That's all you need essentially to kind of get through a year if you can. So
totally,
that's cool.
We often are like, we're not in it for fame or like fortune. We'd like to be able to make a living playing music for sure, but we really do appreciate the people who take the time to engage with us. Like we're just real people, and we want to engage with real people in a meaningful way. I think that music is about like creating connections with each other as a band. And when somebody reaches out and is like, this speaks to me, it's like, cool, thank you, that's great.
Yeah.
I just want to touch further on sort of any potential involvement that you had with the company to do the YouTube campaign. Was there a process in sitting down with them and kind of determining with them either what videos you wanted to play in front of? Like, what was your process in working with them? Or did they just kind of say, thanks, we just need a trailer, we'll take it from here?
They did have us like sit down. They're like, sit down, make a list of 10 to 15 artist bands that you would like your ad to play before. And I didn't quite understand what they meant. So I was like, like Sheer Meg and stuff like that. And they're like, no, bigger, like even bigger than that. And I was like, what? So I was like, Dua Lipa? And they're like, yeah, sure, Dua Lipa. And I was like, okay. But I was like, yeah, so that's basically all I had to do, though. I think Emily did a little more communicating with them.
Yeah, I had some calls back and forth, and we sat down. We made our list of bands that we think would be a good fit, where if somebody was going to watch that band, they would be like, this is also interesting. Made a couple trailers. They also would have made a trailer for us, but we thought it'd be better if we took it into our own hands. So made a couple trailers and sent that to them. And, we had one trailer that was just the flames.
Fire, yeah.
And we thought it was like, it's so eye-catching. People were like, what's this all about? And they wrote back and they're like, you can't even tell what this is. You don't know your band. Is this an ad for a song? Is this an ad for a movie? It's just a burning living room. It's like, you know what? Fair point. So we made it like obvious what it was for. Like they just had really great insights as to what, like you have to know, we've never made an ad. What's your product? Like we are the product, but what is it? It's a music video. Click on this if you want to watch a cool video. And then after that, just sending, and then just like analytic talks, like we just chatted a couple times over the course of the campaign, 30 days campaign.
Okay. And then following that, do you have sort of like a post, like kind of follow up with them to see what worked and what didn't work? And then, thinking about another opportunity, like, is that something then you would think, okay, we're going to go back to them because they have the data for potentially doing this for another music video? Yeah. So we have a single that we just wrapped recording for. It's going to get mixed and mastered coming up. And then we're going to make a music video for that as well, which is going to be tricky, but that's the next step. But when we release this song, like we were going to try to release the song and the video together, or at least within like a month of each other. But we're going to release the song in June. So we can get it radio tracked, and they're going to piggyback our album. So we have this new single, so that can boost our album. They can be like, hey, this band has all this stuff. And they do North American college community radio, a little bit of commercial stuff. So they're going to do Canada and the States for us, get all that data. It's going to give us a hot sheet of all the radio stations that play us, and we'll see what cities we do well in. So it's going to be great for booking future tours. And then with all that data, they can go to, the sync placements, and for those
listening who don't know what sync placements are, it's like you get your song played on TV, film TV, and you get royalties from that. So they're going to take all that data and push our record and the new single in the fall. Like apparently all the sync placement stuff happens in the fall, and they lock it in for their seasons in the fall. So we wanted to release maybe late August because we wanted some more time to do the video. And then they were like, no, songs that come out in June. And so we're just making it happen.
Yeah.
And then the video's coming out in August, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Yeah. So you guys, again, kind of learned from that Hunter's experience of like, let's get the song, get it into radio first. And then we can, obviously, thoughts of doing a music video, anything visual to accompany a song these days is it's a must have. But, knowing sort of like, learning from last time is like, hey, we're going to go ahead and, make sure this gets to radio first. Because when you said that, I used to work with a band earlier and, they had a song come out and I had no idea either that it was like, well, the song's out, so now you want to hear it. No, we wanted to hear it 6 months ago, or 3 weeks ago, 6 months ago, because then, then we'll want to try and put it out there. But now it's old. People hear it, like the minute it's, it's like the minute the car goes off the lot, right? It's completely depreciated in value, which is so ridiculous.
Shitty.
So, exactly, right?
It's so fucked up. It's like we just made this thing. We spent so long making this thing.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I heard it once. And and somebody else might have heard it once.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna play it.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Thanks. Well, I guess
we did hear. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We heard like a couple different opinions. Like we definitely heard people who were kind of like, I don't know, like Fine Hunniez, you released the album in July, it's old. And then other people were like, no, we can. Like Tinderbox is kind of like, no, we can make something happen with this still. So, there's varying degrees.
I think definitely from an industry standpoint, like you mentioned, Emily, it's like from an industry standpoint, yes, it's old, but I think it's really important too that artists that know like there is an entire world that has not heard your music, and you're talking now about putting out a new single that's gonna help bring listens back to the album that was released in 2020. I mean, you have to be thinking about that, right? Like you say, you put the time and the energy and the money into recording an album. Just because it's been a year since it's come out, it doesn't mean that, yeah, sure, maybe you're tired of it, you want to move on to it, but there is a whole country, there's so many people that have not heard your stuff. And I think it's really important for the artist to understand that, because you might not get the assistance that you need for an old project. So try and figure out what it is that you can do to try and bring listeners, or know that it's okay to bring listeners back to a project you were just, you released a year ago. Is that kind of a mentality that you guys
absolutely
have? Yeah.
I think that it's really hard, and I think we're pretty good at it for the most part, but most artists to not get totally downtrodden, because it's a lot to keep in your brain. We all have you have your actual job, and then the band, and then you're doing PR, and you're the booking agent, and you're the graphic designer, and you're the recording engineer, and you're the songwriter, and it's like
burnout,
all of the things that you're trying to keep in your one tiny little pea brain. And it can be really tricky to not, you pour so much into something and you put it out there hoping that people are just going to fuel you, and you can seek that validation. But the more you can remove your ego from it and make the music that you want to make for you, that has benefited all of us, being like, it's great. It is great. It feels good. That validation is wonderful, but it cannot be the only thing that you are working for, or it's going to fall flat and you are going to burn out. Because if you need other people to fill you up, then you are in the wrong industry. This industry blows, but it also is the best. We were talking, it's not a choice for us. We didn't choose to do music. We'd just be fucking miserable if we didn't make it.
Yeah.
So we just are shooting to keep having a good time. And, Jeff has said he just wants our next release to be better than the last.
So, you put out your album in 2020, which might have been, I don't want to say the worst year to release music, but it was definitely a tough year to be releasing music.
Time will tell. Maybe you'll be right. Maybe that will actually prove to be true.
You know what? I have no data to go on, just the fact that we know that 2020 and the beginning of 2021 really sucks.
As much as it's been awful, I'm grateful for the time, like, to actually get our shit together. Like, immediately the pandemic hit, and then I lost my job as a live sound engineer, obviously. And it was, okay, let's build a website. Let's build an online store. Let's figure out all of our printing and stuff. Let's design our new merch. Like with this new single, it's like, it's not holding us back. I think that all of us are just like, we'll just make more music.
We'll just be a studio band.
We'll just be a studio band. Or like when the pandemic's over, then we'll tour this. We'll have all this stuff, which is fantastic. And we'll just, I just don't think you should be too precious about a release. I also have a studio, and I tell artists, like, I think it's called a release because you just got to let it go. You know, like there's a point where you just have to be done. And us holding on to this album because we wanted to do it in person, I think that's an ego thing getting in the way. Like there's like, somebody could argue a lot about marketing and, well, you'd make more money if you waited and this and that and the other thing, which is probably all true, but we'll just make more. We'll just do it again.
I was going to say, it just kind of switched from, live stuff to, we realize now how important digital marketing is. Like we kind of played that game. We hate playing the game, but we kind of were like, we should do something. And digital marketing is where it's at.
Yeah.
I should probably take a picture of this, put it on all the socials.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, social media, play the game.
One other benefit I think this pandemic has provided is the ability to like learn more about I don't know, from my mind anyways, like what motivates us and what we want to motivate us. Because in the past it's been like the hustle. It's been like, okay, we've got these shows, we've got busy schedules. It's like we've got all these motivations to keep us going, but sometimes that's not like really what truly motivates like us and inspires us to create. It motivates us to keep going and keep the machine running. But this is the time has given us the benefit of like perspective to look at, our relationship with our music and be like, okay, like, what do we actually want to do? Mm-hmm. And I think this upcoming single is a good example of like what we want to do, like production wise, arrangement wise, creativity wise. I'm really excited for it. I think it's like, like I said, I'm like, I just always want the next thing we do to be better than the last.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, like we're doing it. So that's great. That's been like a huge win for us, I think, this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, because the album's great. I'm excited to hear what you guys have coming up from this. If it is that much better, which I don't doubt. I'm starting to sound really stupid now, but like I really enjoyed the album, and again, just from a riff, at a good instrumental perspective, and it's just a lot of education I think we as men need to do as well, and stories that we need to listen to. And I think that you've done a great job in lyrically putting together something that we need to think about a little bit more often, is happening in the world we live in today, besides a pandemic. So Bad Buddy, Emily, Jeff, Andy, thank you so much for your time today on the Release Day Series podcast. It was great talking with you guys. This was awesome.
Thanks for having us. This was great.